Jasra, and hi to our little Dr. Zaza and my friends. I am Busur will be the host present for the Advocates Group. Introduction. The Spanish state, or officially known as the Spanish Common, is a country whose territory of mainland is located on the Iberian Peninsula in southwestern Europe. The country borders the country of Portugal in the western part of its territory. In total country area of Spain is approximately 505,990 sq km and makes the country the second largest country in Western Europe and the European Union. Based on its territory, Spain is also the fourth largest country in continental Europe, population and majority. Spain is with a population of about 47.4 million inhabitants, making it the sixth most populous country. Based on the latest world meter data, the population of Spain is currently 467,883,006 million and the rank 30 in the list of countries by population. In Asia, Christianity, especially Roman Catholic, is the majority religion in the country. The city of Madrid is also the largest city and the capital of the country. Economically, Spain can be categorized as a highly developed country with high income, with an economy in the 14th largest place in the world based on the nominal GDP. Moreover, its economy is focused on social market. Based on the GDP figure from 2010 to 2020, the agriculture sector has contributed around 3.15% of Spain's GDP in 2020, and 20.37% come from the industrial sector and 67.76% from the service sector. However, the automotive industry is the largest provider of employment in the country. Finally, it is also the 15th largest export in the world and 14th largest import in the world.
Hi, my name is Katrina. Now I'll be explaining employment law in Spain. In Spain, there are two main sources for the employment law, which is the Spanish Civil Code and the Workers' Statute. Spanish employment contracts can be both verbal and written, but some contracts must be in written form no matter what. In terms of ages, only those above age 18 can sign their own employment contract. If you are between the age of 16 to 18 years old, you need permission from your family before you can work. Now I explain about the four most common types of employment contract in Spain. The first is the indefinite contract. It is the most common employment contract in Spain. It doesn't have an end date, and if the employee is forced to leave the company involuntarily, the company must give severance pay to the worker. Second is the work experience contract. It is temporary contract and it lasts from a minimum of 6 months to a maximum of 2 years. You also need a university degree or vocational qualification in the last 4 years in order to have this contract. Besides that is the training contract. Training contract is for those between the age of 16 to 21, but you are not eligible to have the work experience contract. It also lasts in the same amount, which is 6 months to 2 years. Lastly is the temporary contract. Temporary contract is for a specific type of contract, and you can only have a temporary contract of 6 months in 1 year. Besides that, employers are also required to report to the employment contract to the Public Employment Services no later than 10 days after the contract has been concluded. They will also have to send a copy to the workers' representatives in writing. There are two main trade unions in Spain that work on a national level. That is the Workers' Commissions, CCOO, and the General Union of Workers, UGT. These two are 70% of the elected representatives in the work councils, and they're also known as class trade unions. This means they represent all sectors of the economy. Other members that work on a national level in Spain are the USO, CGT, NCT, and more. In Spain, union representatives are not based on membership. Instead, there is a work election in the Works Council every 4 years, and in order for a union to reach a national level representative, they must obtain at least 10% of all delegates. Now I will be explaining some characteristics for unions. First, it has a low union membership. Only 15 to 20% of the workforce are part unions. Besides that, there is a high union member turnover. This means that the unions in Spain have a hard time retaining the new members. And next, the Labour Reform Act of 2012 had negatively affected the unions and caused them to have a weakened power. Some characteristics can be explained by the general cause of general efficacy, agreeableness. This means that the trade union representatives are able to negotiate on behalf of all workers in the company level or industry, depending on the depending on the collective agreement. Even though they are not in the trade union, they will still be able to enjoy this benefit. Collective bargaining in Spain occurs at 3 levels, which is national level, industry level, and company or organization level. Overall coverage of collective bargaining in Spain is around 80% for the employees, and that's because of the general cost of efficacy that was mentioned earlier. For the guidelines for pay increase, which is one of the main topics for collective bargaining in Spain, it is normally between the national unions, CCOO and UGT, and the Employers Association. It also generally runs for 3 years, and during this time, there's recommendations to the negotiators at industry and company level for the pay for the coming year. This agreement also does not have any binding force. Until 2012, the guidelines for pay agreement is that the negotiators will seek an agreement that combines a pay increase at the level of the forecast inflation with an amount to take account of the higher productivity plus catch-up payment if the inflation ended up higher than what has been forecasted. This changed from 2009 when there is a financial crisis in Spain, and from 2012 to 2015, there was a more modest increase. And initially the number was below 1% and later just a bit above that figure. And during this time, the recommended increase was also not agreed between the two sides. Lastly, from 2018 to 2020, there was a return to higher annual increase, and it was planned that 2% will be increased in basic pay, accompanied by another 1% in variable pay that is linked to productivity. In Spain, lockouts are fairly rare. This is because it is legally restricted to circumstances where there is intense conflict and the company assets will be in danger. In order for a strike to be legal in Spain, a notice of 5 days must be given in advance to the company. If the company is a provider for essential services, the notice has to be given 10 days in advance instead. Besides that, it's also in Spain, it is illegal for strikes to occupy the workplace. It's also illegal to call for a strike in order to forcibly change a collective agreement. Lastly, it is also illegal to replace external and internal strikers.
My name is Nurul Iza Fadila binti Tola. For the total labor force participation, the total labor force in Spain were 23,312,310. This is the total labor force participation rate from the age of 15 and above. The labor force participation rates can be defined as a calculate of the labor force divided by the total working age population. For the working age population, it refers to the people who are working from age 15 to 64. The ratio of foreign workers to total labor force, based on the data that provided by the country's social security, there were 2,290,099 foreign workers in Spain, accounting for 11.58% of the total number of affiliates. The largest number of employed people are from Romania, followed by Morocco, Italy, Venezuela, and China. For economic reasons, the majority of Romanian immigrants work in Spain. Romanians are drawn to the country because of the language similarities between Romanian and Spanish, as well as Romanian's Latin identity. The current policies in Spain for domestic workers, the contracts for employment can be made in orally or in writing. Fixed-term contracts lasting about 4 weeks or longer must be concluded in writing in any circumstances, unless proof of the temporary or part-time nature of the services given can be presented orally. Next, they have to properly register their employees in Spain's social security system and make the right contributions, as well as ensuring they are paying them at least the minimum wage. In Spain, a worker must get a minimum of 12 hours of rest and allowing live-in domestic workers at least 2 hours per day for men meals, which does not constitute as working time. For the foreign worker policies, foreigner who has offered and wants to work in Spain must follow few conditions and rules that was given by Spain government. Foreigners can acquire a work visa provided as they meet the qualifications, with the exceptions of those relating to the labor market and the foreigner's criminal record. a citizen of the EU, EEA or Switzerland, they are allowed to live and work in Spain without a visa or permit. For non-EU citizens, they will need a work permit to work in Spain. For work permit and employment card, the labor authorities for foreign nationals to work in Spain need Spanish work visa to be able to legally start work, especially for non-EU citizens. There are various sorts of Spanish work visas available. The EU Blue Card is for persons who have completed at least 3 years of higher education and are qualified to work as a skilled professional. People with a minimum of 5 years of high-level professional experience are also eligible. The application is submitted on behalf of the applicant by the employer. For the application for work permit and employment card, they need to fill out the appropriate application form for the sort of work permit visa that required in order to apply for the work. The right form can be found on the Foreigner Office website. After completing the application, they need to present it to the Foreigner Office with the necessary document, which is the first one is copy of the passport, next criminal record, medical certificate, the 3 passport size photograph, the NIC, the employer's social security number, the job offer with the labor condition, full description of the job and the company's activity, the proof of your employer's financial asset if needed, and the corresponding Spain work permit visa application form. Sectors of employment and its determinants of the employment patterns for the domestic worker. The household sector in Spain is currently absorbing a large part of the demand for childcare and elderly care provision. Although the domestic sector in Spain is more regulated than in many other countries, greater efforts to formalize and improve the labor and employment rights of household employees are needed to counterbalance occupational segregation and social inequality. The percentage of registered domestic workers in Spain is so high, partly because domestic work in Spain is legally recognized as a formal labor market occupation and also including in other economic sectors such as construction and agriculture. For the foreign worker, most of the foreign workers in Spain more focus on the employment in the service sector. Based on the statistic, it shows the increase of the number of employment in the service sector compared to the agriculture and industry sector. For the government agencies handling of domestic workers and foreign workers, the first one is Spanish employment agencies, which is concentrate the design of employment policies and will do so subject to permanent evaluation by means of an annual audit to measure the success or failure of the measures deployed and, if necessary, to correct them. The next one is the Spanish Salary Guarantee Fund. This is to guarantee the compensation of unpaid workers' salaries as a result of their employer going insolvent, ceasing payments, going into liquidation, or entering into composition with creditors. The last one is the Ministry of Labor and Social Economy. This is the department of the government of Spain responsible for planning and carrying out the government policy on labor relations and social economy.
My name is Shaira binti Bujang. For the payment of wages, the minimum wages in Spain is 1,015 euro per month in 2022. The worker will receive payable in 14 installments to allow the double salary in June and December. These wages rates are fixed through the collective agreement. Under the Spain labor law, an employer salary can be monetary or in kind but cannot be higher than 30% of the total amount that received. Next is employment of women. According to the World Bank Collection Development, the total labor force of female in Spain is 47% in 2021. Women in Spain more likely to hold jobs in secure contracts. Only 3% of women in Spain work in top-level jobs such as director and manager. Women in Spain still continue dominate employment in elementary jobs such as cleaner, domestic worker, and food preparation worker. Next is working hour and leave. In Spain, maximum working week is 40 hours from 8:30 a.m. or 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. and then from 4:30 p.m. or 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. with minimum 12-hour rest between working day. The overtime hour cannot exceed 18 hours per year unless there are collective agreement in the workplace. For the annual leave, the worker are entitled to a minimum 22 working days per year. Second is sick leave. There are no standard sick leave. Under Spain labor law, when a worker is temporarily unable to work or need medical assistance due to illness or accident, he or she will be paid at least 60% of his wages. For the maternity leave, the standard maternity leave in Spain is 16-week period. 18 weeks for the twin, 20 weeks in the case of triple. For the children with disability, there is an addition 2 weeks. For paternity leave, both mother and father have opportunity to take 16 weeks off from their work, while the another 10 weeks can be taken on non-consecutively during first 12 months of the baby life. For termination of employee, there are 3 main grounds for dismissal of an employee. First is collective dismissal. This termination based on economic, technical, organizational, or productivity grounds are deemed collective when 10 workers are affected in company with less than 100 workers. Second is objective dismissal. The employer must serve at least 15 days advance notice in writing on the worker. Everyone must be made available to the worker at the same time the written note of dismissal served. Third is disciplinary dismissal. The employer must serve the written note of disciplinary dismissal, starting the ground and the effective date of dismissal. For employment of foreigner from outside the European community, including self-employed individual, must obtain an administrative authorization or work permit to work in Spain. The work permit may be requested at the Immigration Bureau. There are 2 types of visa in Spain. First is work employment visa that include permit for higher qualified professional and seasonal worker. Second is self-employed work visa. This is allow foreigner to live and work in Spain for a period of 1 year. For minimum retirement age, in Spain, minimum age for retired is 65 years and 10 months in 2022. In 2027, the legal retirement age will be 67 years for both men and women. For the voluntary early retirement, that is being restricted in Spain, so workers can retire 2 years early if they meet certain conditions and have been made at least 35 years of contribution. For policy and act related to children and young labor, in Spain, children under 16 cannot legally work even they are foreigner. If they want to work, they have to get permission from their parent or legal guardian. There are 2 types of organizations that can protect children in Spain. First is the Spain Children Rights Coalition, that known as a Plataforma de Infancia. This is an alien of not-for-profit, plural, democratic, political, and religiously independent organization that work to achieve a full implementation of the rights of children. And second is SOS Children Village Spain. This also a part of Plataforma de Infancia. A coalition of children-focused organizations has advocated for years to see the legalization become reality to bring about structural change in fighting violence against children. Last is policy related to the anti-discrimination law. In Spain, workers are also entitled to protect and respect their privacy. Harassment for the racial reason or ethnic origin, religion or belief, disability, and another is considered in breach of contract. The employer can face contractive demand for dismissal through Article 50, which is essentially will entitle the employee to the same amount as unfair dismissal. If the employee has been brought to the court as one of serious evidence of destructive activity by his employer, this claim can be supplemented with action for moral damage against the company. According to the Spain rule, companies with more of 15 employees have to book a quota of 2% their staff to be filled with people with disabilities.
For conclusion, taxation will be examined the obvious similarities and difference between the system of industrial relationship between Malaysia and Spain. For the difference is payment of wage, employment of women, working hour and leave, employment of foreigner, and policies and act related to the children and young labor and policies. Malaysia and Spain is different from this, and the similar of these 2 countries is in minimum retirement age and policies related to the anti-discrimination law. That's all. Thank you.